I have a story to tell you today. You're going to love this one, and I hope it lights a fire under you. And let's see if you can figure out who I'm talking about before I actually tell you. Debbie was only 19 years old when she reached a crossroads in her life. She was married to a well-known economist and futurist and had quit work to play the role of a conventional wife. She hadn't expected her decision to deal such a hard blow to her self-esteem. No one seemed to think she had anything to offer, including herself. Now, one night at a party, things kind of reached a head. People were falling all over themselves to talk to her husband. They were treating her like she was an absolute zero, walking away from her in most conversations, until the party host approached her. She tried to talk to him, answering his barrage of questions. She tried to appear sophisticated, urbane, and clever, failing miserably at her attempt to be something she wasn't. Her host finally asked, "What do you intend to do with your life?" Well, Debbie was a nervous wreck at this point, so she blurted out, Well, I'm mostly trying to get orientated." Well, her host looked at her with complete disgust. "The word is oriented," he snapped. "There is no such word as orientated. Why don't you learn to use the English language?" He spat out his words and he walked away. Well, you can imagine. Debbie was crushed. She cried all the way home. But somewhere in the middle of all those tears, she made a decision. She would never, never, never let something like that happen again. She was done living in someone else's shadow. She would find something of her own. Well, as she pondered what she was going to do, she thought back to the old boat motor that had accumulated dust in her family's basement when she was growing up, her parents and 5 girls in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. Her father was going to buy a boat for that motor someday. He never did. And to Debbie, that motor became a symbol of putting off dreams until it's too late to achieve them. Debbie had watched her father die with his dreams unfulfilled. She didn't want the same thing to happen to her. She would do something. But what? The only thing that Debbie was really good at was making cookies. She had been baking and experimenting with recipes since she was 13 years old. She'd add more butter, she'd use less flour, or she'd try different kinds of chocolate. She'd finally hit on a recipe that she believed was ideal. Her cookies were soft, buttery, and crammed with chocolate chips. She realized she had to use her gifts, so Debbie decided to open a cookie store. Well, every single person in her life told her it wouldn't work. No one believed in her. Well, it didn't matter. On August 18th, 1977, when Debbie was 20 years old, she opened her first store. No one came. By noon, she was desperate. She stared at the empty store and decided if she was going to go out of business, she would at least do it in style. So Debbie loaded up a tray of cookies and went out to her shopping arcade trying to give away cookies. No one would take them. She figured she had nothing to lose at this point, so she headed out to the street. She begged, pleaded, and wheedled until people finally took her samples, and she watched and smiled as their faces lit up. She went back to the store and sold cookies to the people who had followed her wanting more. By the end of the day, she had sold $50 worth. The next day, she sold $75 worth, and the rest is cookie history. Debbie Fields went on to become the owner of over 600 Mrs. Fields cookie stores with sales in the multi-millions. She is also the mother of 5. She did indeed find something of her own. See, here's the thing. No matter what you want to do, you will face obstacles. You will face people who don't believe in your dreams. So what? It's your life. It will become what you decide to make it. Debbie Fields shared this in a speech she gave. Whatever you do in your life, you have to be absolutely passionate about it. Well, Debbie was passionate about cookies, passionate about excellence, passionate about living with no regrets. So take some time to think about what you're passionate about. Make a list. Might be long, might be short. What are you most passionate about? What will create the greatest joy and success in your life if you decide to do it? What will you most regret if you don't do it? I'm hoping that building your green organics business to $10,000 a month is on that list of passions. Just think how much it will empower you to make all the other things you are so passionate about happen. It's up to you to take action and use your gifts. So go do it and have an ultimate day.